that we do have budget constraints as a result of budget cuts, which might limit our ability to implement some of the issues that we intend to implement. Coming to the planning, rather monitoring, at the heart of our monitoring system, of course, is the National Development Plan, which promises the citizens of South Africa three key things: the reduction of unemployment and poverty, as well as inequality. The wills in the call outlines our planning system, what we call integrated monitoring system. You'll see we've got citizen-based monitoring, frontline monitoring. We've got programs such as Flora as our monitoring tool. We have got monitoring of management practices. We've got monitoring of local government through what we call LGMIM. We've got monitoring of special projects and outcome-based monitoring, which speaks mainly to the implementation of the programs as envisaged in the National Development Plan. Of course, I must mention that our monitoring system does not monitor everything. It is focused on the priorities outlined in the medium-term development plan and some of the issues that might emanate from time to time. We coordinate and manage outcome system by monitoring and reporting on progress thereon. From time to time, political principals in the presidency are provided with the necessary support, and we also prepare CAB memos that inform cabinet in their deliberations on decision making. So in the main, this is what we do as part of our monitoring system, and our focus areas for the remainder of this planning cycle will be to continue to monitor all those programs as outlined in the integrated planning system. Again, we point out that even in the monitoring function, we do have challenges related to budget cuts, which might limit our ability to execute our mandate. So we give here a brief performance over this current planning cycle of 2020-2025. We show here that during the past 5 years, our performance has mapped out in relation, that is in relation to the targets as outlined in the APP for all the various years. So you'll see that 2019-2020 we were at 82, the following year 79, and so on and so forth. We're showing that in this financial year 2024-25, for the first quarter, we had achieved 87% of the target as outlined in the current APP. So on the side, we have selected some highlights of performance, which include that we have been obtaining clean audits throughout that period. We have done review annually of strategic plans and annual performance plans of department. We have initiated the process of developing the planning framework bill. We have been producing biannual monitoring reports. We have been developing national and provincial indicators for sectors with concurrent functions. We have done an assessment of local government to identify dysfunctionalities in some municipalities. We have used frontline monitoring, facilitating a range of service delivery interventions. And we have been tracking the development through the development indicators, which are produced on an annual basis. And we indicate again the key constraint there of limitation in the number of staff that we currently can employ, given what is known as budget cuts. We also highlight here that part of the legacy of the sixth administration going into the seventh has been the development of a 30-year review, which we led as the PME to present to the country progress that we have made since 1994, with the aim of deriving lessons and informing how we move forward as a country, given what we have achieved and the challenges that we have experienced. We're using the content of that report to engage with various stakeholders in society with the view of informing them and allowing them to make inputs into how best to move forward as a country to ensure that we sustain the development trajectory and address all the weaknesses that have been identified, and all the stakeholders that were engaged are appointed there. We are taking lessons from those engagements, and those lessons are being applied now in the development of the medium-term development plan that we have indicated. It's in the process of being finalized to be approved by Cabinet sometimes in October. We again here, Chair, I won't go through this slide. It's just to point out that our monitoring, evaluation, and research function assist us in generating knowledge and measuring performance, as well as ensuring that accountability is implemented. And in that process, that cycle then enable us to improve the decision making throughout. Some of the values that were derived from the research and evaluations, as pointed out there, the COVID-19 country development report, which highlighted strength of existing institutional mechanisms for disaster management, as demonstrated, the assessment of floods, disasters, and intervention in KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, I've spoken about the 30-year review, the cost-benefit analysis of electricity pricing policy, which strengthened the justification of the review of the 2008 EPP, land restitution, and so on and so forth. So this is the work that is derived from the research and evaluations that we conduct as the PME. That is a continuation of the value of the work that we do in terms of generating knowledge, which enable us to do our planning, monitoring, and evaluation. Chair, with your permission, I'll pause here and through you allow Ms. Josephine Shaposhope to proceed with the presentation regarding the matters emanating from the legal matters emanating from the sixth administration. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I can come in. So we have no more than 15 minutes for this. So I'll ask the colleague to just give highlights. Thank you.
Yeah, you have until 11 o'clock. So, yeah, thank you very much. Please continue.
Through you, Chair, I'm not sure if she wants me to continue to drive the presentation.
Thank you.
Chair, in case he's facing challenges with connectivity, let me speak to the issues. so that
Oh.
please be organized.
Apologies, I was speaking. I didn't even realize I was muted. Apologies, apologies. We will go straight into what the 7th administration is inheriting. It is one of the products of a DPME. So in the previous administration, the priorities were 7, as per announcement by the president in his State of the Nation address when the 6th administration started. The priorities are there: capable state, economy and job creation, education and skills, social wage, spatial integration, social cohesion, and better Africa and a better world. Next slide. Next slide, Mr. Matale. It hasn't moved on my side. I'm not. Thank you. Now it has moved. Thank you so much. And so going forward, this medium-term strategic framework, as Mr. Madala has already said, is going to be the medium-term development plan. And there are now 3 priorities. Next slide. And those priorities are economy and jobs, a capable state, as well as reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living. Next slide. So what happened in the previous administration? The priority capable state was able to establish, the president was able to establish the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, which has a 3-year mandate, and we were able to improve the compliance rate of financial disclosure framework, particularly for civil servants, up to almost 100%. Lifestyle audits were done, and over and above that, Cabinet approved the national framework towards professionalization of the public sector, and it is being implemented. Next slide. What needs to happen going forward is that we must continue implementing the national anti-corruption strategy. We must continue repurposing SOEs to enable them to function optimally and deliver and help South Africa deliver on its NDP vision. We must modernize business processes across the public sector, and we must ensure state capacity in disaster management in particular. We've not been where we should be, and thanks to climate change, we are having more and more of these disasters. On economy and job creation, the honorable members will know that we haven't been performing as well as we should here. Unemployment is currently at 32.9%. We have actually contracted in terms of the economy by at least 0.1 percentage point. Anyway, what we have managed to do this administration, we've managed to ensure that the Transnet National Ports Authority is established. We have auctioned the spectrum. In terms of infrastructure, we have managed to mobilize a strategic infrastructure projects to the total value of 540 billion. We are better in terms of energy security now than we were at the start of the 6th administration. In terms of master plans, we have about 12 master plans finalized and being implemented, and we are repurposing 12 state-owned industrial parks, revitalizing them. Next slide, please. So what should we do going forward? We must expedite and continue implementing the generation recovery plan. We must diversify our energy sources. We must implement comprehensive reforms around freight logistics to help us continue exporting all that we produce. We must accelerate the implementation of the various key reforms around industrial parks revitalization program to enable people to be employed. Next slide, please. Around education and skills, we did very well. We are able to, we've improved a bachelor passes, and just to add that female learners are performing better actually than male learners in terms of passing and bachelor passes. We've managed to reach the target around TVET colleges. However, around university enrollments, but we are still not where we should be with TVET. Around health, biggest achievement, the NHI Act was passed into law. We have managed to increase life expectancy at birth to 66.5%, and that is really a good impact indicator of how well not just the health system is performing, but the other socio-economic indicators that are related to the outcome health. Next slide, please. On the social wage, whilst we have not managed to dent inequality and poverty as much as we want to, or as much as the National Development Plan says we should, the honorable members will remember that the National Development Plan is calling for zero in terms of income poverty by 2030. We are not there yet. However, we've managed to expand the social wage so much so that social grants with over 19 million beneficiaries have remained one of government's most effective tool against poverty. Next slide. What should we do going forward in terms of the social wage? One, we should continue optimizing the policy around the social protection in particular. We've seen that we have had ad hoc interventions because we don't have this comprehensive social protection policy that will ensure that everyone has a minimum standard of living as demanded of us by the Constitution, in particular, Chapter 2 of the Constitution. We must finalize the implementation of the National Integrated Social Protection Information System so that we close gaps and ensure that people have access to the social wage. And then we must reform the social insurance, all of it, from the Road Accident Fund to the UIF Unemployment Insurance Fund to COIDA, etc. Next slide, please. In terms of spatial integration, the FLIPS policy, which helps first-time home buyers with a government subsidy, has been very welcomed and has enabled new home owners to access a housing which they would not have been able to access otherwise. Then the NSDF has been developed and adopted by cabinet and is now almost ready for implementation, with various regional spatial development frameworks also completed to further implement the NSDF. Next slide, please. So as it relates to this one, in terms of impact indicators, we've managed to have a 97% access to electricity, 90% access to adequate sanitation, 50% of our waste is diverted to landfill sites, and 60% national usage of public transport. Of course, this can be improved, but so far, with interventions such as the upgrading of metro rail fleet, we will be able to do better in the 7th administration. Next slide. we will continue to implement the housing development. What we need to do, continuing going forward, is that with housing, we must ensure that we transform the spatial space. Honorable members will remember that what happened post 1994, as we were trying to expand access to housing, we placed people furthest from economic opportunities. So going forward, we must make sure that in terms of housing development areas, we look at a generic, spatial transformation, including access. It should not be access only and then space, but it should be both combined. We need to accelerate the issuing of title deeds. We are way behind in this, and this does not enable people to use their assets, housing as assets, to further grow their wealth. In terms of environment, just to summarize that whatever plan that we have, we must remember that we are trying to enable a just transition. So we should, for example, remove misalignments between the competent authorities on environmental authorization processes. We must increase manufacturing capability of rooftop solar and battery storage components to further boost the use of clean energy. In terms of agriculture, we must improve the local vaccine capabilities and streamline smallholder farmer support to enable their productivity to increase. In rural development and land reform, we must optimize the entirety of Section 42 application to ensure better and more efficient post-settlement interventions. Next slide, please. In terms of social cohesion, what have we managed to do? Remember, with social cohesion, we are trying to redress and transform space as well. We are trying to transform the usage of language beyond the two former dominant languages, English and Afrikaans. We are trying to also ensure economic inclusion and cultural inclusion. So what have we done? We've managed to complete 4 heritage sites. We have revised the history curriculum, and we have enacted the South African Sign Language, one of the greatest achievements of the 6th administration. In terms of safer communities, there's a 49 serious organized crime project investigations that were successfully closed down. In other words, the wrongdoers were caught, thrown into jail. And I wanted to add that the key thrown away, but no, the key was not thrown away. Then SAA NDF deployed 15 sub units during the corona to try and maintain a law and order that was required at that time. And one of the other greatest achievements of the 6th administration is the establishment of the border management authorities. And honorable members, we have seen the success of these border management authority. Next slide, please. So what should we do going forward? We continue to implement the National Action Plan against racism and other related intolerances. We must complete the Sarah Baartman Center, which has been in a state of non-completion for at least 7 years. We must promote the study of history in schools using the revised curriculum, enact national legislation on cybercrime, strengthen members to improve the security of land ports of entry. And we must try and reduce overcrowding in prisons. In terms of what needs to happen with regard our relationship with the outside world, The pledges have come through for investment drive. Now the pledges must translate into a real investment. So we're looking very forward to that. Cabinet has approved the tourism sector recovery a plan in order to try and increase jobs availability. We must enable visitors to come to South Africa through things such as the e-visa system and so on. Next slide, please. And I think this is almost our last slide. We must implement our regional indicative strategic development plan to lift the entire region. And one of the proposals in this plan is optimizing the value chains across the various countries within the region. We must implement the AFTA and other trade agreements to increase trade within the continent. We must contribute to the implementation of the identified Agenda 2063 flagship projects. We move beyond this being a very beautiful plan, glossy, to implementation. So this is just the summary. Let's go to what needs to happen. Move from here to recommendations. Yes, we must. The first recommendation. Yes, we must develop and strengthen the implementation of the professionalization framework in order to have this public sector that is a professional and capable and developmental. Then the department, the DCDT, must fast-track the process of digitalization across a government to enable a faster and more efficient service delivery. We must implement the comprehensive reforms outlined in the freight logistic roadmap. We deal with this, we deal with the energy, we will be able to push up productivity and by extension, job creation. We must reduce the regulatory burden of SMMEs and across the three different spheres of government, talk to a reduction in red tape to enable a quicker investment. Next slide. Thank you. We must boost the quality of ECDs. I know colleagues as well as honorable members know that the best time to invest such that the child's potential is at its greatest is at ECD level. It is for that reason that ECD has been prioritized, and investments therefore must ensure that young children pathways, cognitive pathways are developed, motor, visual, and are prepared for schools. The last one, we must develop a comprehensive infrastructure plan to serve as a business model that provides for the implementation of the IDPs across for sustainable service delivery. We must maintain and upgrade aging infrastructure. We must support municipalities in developing these master plans for investment as well as repair and maintenance. We must ensure that this electrification master plan is implemented, and we must accelerate bucket eradication plan, and we must review and ensure that the bus rapid transformation systems to enable all of us to have a safe, accessible, affordable a transport system at local government level. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, colleagues.
Chair, that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, there you have it, the presentation of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation as the introduction to the work. I will now allow some time for engagement. Can you just indicate by show of hands if there's any questions to the department from any of the honourable members? We're going to stick to our normal 3-minute per question time limit, just to make sure that our time management stays on track. Honourable members, show of hands. Just keep your hands up until you've had your turn to ask your question, and then I will ask you to remove your hand once you've asked your question, and I will take the hand that's next in line. Honourable members, thank you for your patience with the meeting being online, but we're doing well. Right, I'll start with Honourable Nzimande, and then followed by Honourable Breed, and then Honourable Skeerkogel, and then Honourable Makasini, and then Honourable Kahunda, and then Honourable Moyemang, and then we'll see how we go. But just keep your hands up until you've asked your question, and then please take your hand down so I can see whose hand is next up for the following question. Honourable, sorry, was it Honourable, who was the first member who had their hand up? Sorry.
Honourable Nzimande.
Honourable Breed. Honourable Nzimande, thank you. You can continue.
No, thank you, Chair, and good morning to everyone. Mine are just 3 questions. How is the department intending to intervene and assist the departments, because organizational structures of these departments are too old, and if obviously you'll have to want them to be responsive to the plans that you are developing, something has to be done. The second question is, unless I did not hear the presenter correctly, but there is a statement to the effect that out of 66 cases of organized crimes, 49 were successfully closed. If we may just be clarified about the period, from which period to which period, because seemingly this is an alarming issue. It has been raised, and obviously, if this number is to be accurate, probably maybe it should be linked to the period, and so that we have a clear clarity. The last part, Chair, deals with the intervention or the mitigating factors which probably the department will have to employ in relation to the comprehensive plan they are just talking about on infrastructure. When you look on the reduction of the budget, but also a further statement by the ministry in relation to the issue of stopping new projects, so that they'll be able to finance the projects that have been delayed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. It's very good time management, Honourable Nzimande. Honourable Breed.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, maybe let me start with, thank the presenters for the presentation, and then get into the questions. There was stated that there will be a review of the organizational structure, and it will be settled within the 2025 MTAF midterms framework. Can we just get timeframes as to where in the process this organizational review is, and when are we looking at completion of this organizational structure? And then also maybe to link onto that, there were about 29 lost positions due to COVID, and the presenters have mentioned budgetary cuts. How is this looking now in terms of, have we lost any more funded positions, and how will this impact the organizational review as well, if we can speak to that? Then in terms of the monitoring of strategic plans and APPs, what is the tracking mechanism used to ensure that this happens? And then maybe just to add to that, when I was in the Free State Legislature in the 5th Parliament, we had a big problem with monitoring and evaluation not going to the ground and only relying on reports given to them by the department. How is DPME actually doing the tracking of this? Are they going to the ground, or are they mainly relying on reports? Then in terms of acting HODs and DGs that are not obligated to sign performance agreements, how are we keeping them to account, and does the department foresee that we will be able to keep them to account? Then speaking, Chairperson, to the acceleration of title deeds, how has the monitoring and evaluation thereof and the implementation, how has this actually been accelerated, and can this be accelerated to ensure that people do eventually own their land? And then, Chairperson, not a question but a comment. I think it is very good that the department has made mention of the alignment of environmental plans and positions. I think that is a big problem between a Department of Environment and Agriculture when it comes to specifically cases of animal welfare and animal well-being, and then also the mention of the shortage of vaccines. That has been a tumultuous time, and we have been tormented by this. So I do appreciate their findings on that. And Chairperson, that is vlei my storie is uit. Thanks.
That is exactly 3 minutes, Honourable Breed. Thank you so much for your time management. I appreciate that. I'll go over to Honourable Skeerkogel.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to find out, one of the evaluation undertakings by the department is implementing an evaluation of the accommodation program under the Governmental Movement Asset Management Act. Now, if this is recommended that the department brief, it's recommended that I want to find out that the department can brief the select committee on the findings of this implementation of this evaluation based on the Management Act. And then with the PME, I want to find out the establishment of rural infrastructure, of the establishment of rural structure manager, has it ensured that there's public participation strategies? Have they been finalized? Have it been implemented? Have they fast-tracked first-party access to the freight and rail network, and fast-tracking the establishment of the transport economic regulator? So I want to find out if they can brief the select committee understanding on what has happened through the Department of Transport through these things of implementing fast tracking of third parties, so that they can access the rail network as well, so that we can create more jobs and that we can make sure that the rail infrastructure is developed and it's not just used by a select few industries. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Skeerkogel. I heard rural in the beginning of your question, but I assume it's rail.
Yes, it's rail, and also rail in rural. That will also be a nice combination.
Thank you, Honourable Skeerkogel. Thank you for your time management. Appreciate it. We go over to Honourable Kaunda.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let's thank the DG and the team for the well-constituted presentations which are enlightening the committee on the work that the department does. Chair, the first issue is the worry about the DDM as a service delivery model, which is a good model, but the challenge remains where departments are not attending to what they're supposed to be doing to attend these DDM meetings and the technical hubs. So how possible it is that so that they can take this work serious, then the department institutionalize DDM so that the performance agreements of the senior managers who are supposed to be in all these DDM structures are performing optimally. The second one, Chair, is on the rural development. We welcome the separation of land reform and the rural development because we need to be looking at how do we scale up the programs of this department, because it is the department that will be able to reduce the migrations to bigger cities, to our metros, especially in KZN, where eThekwini is receiving a big number of people migrating from rural district municipalities to the city. Instead of focusing on agriculture, but catalyzing the economic activities in those areas. We once had a very good example in KZN where we had Inkululeko project, where we zoom into one rural area. We build schools, we build clinics, we build commercial activities, the shopping centers, so that the communities in those areas will remain there and they'll be employed there. The last one, Chair, looking at how our economy is performing, the non-existence of the state bank contributes because if you look at the commercial banks and how they are responding to the emerging companies and that are trying to put their own plans in place, but they are not being supported as expected. But the state bank can play a major role in terms of assisting the emerging companies and also implementing our social development agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kaunda, for your questions. Honourable Moimang.
Thank you.
Chief Whip.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Let me appreciate the presentation from the DG on introducing the work of the department to the select committee. Chair, my question relates to the recommendation 3. Recommendation 3 of the slide, which talks to this one. I just want to raise a request as to whether the department will also be willing to assist, because our focus as this committee is on both governance and infrastructure. In this instance, this committee not only just exercise oversight over the DPME, but also public works, public service administration, and transport. And the translation or the transition from medium-term strategic framework to medium-term development plan calls into action the need to even reposition the work of the select committee to refocus its work in terms of the MDTP, and I guess very soon, Chair, you'll be inviting us to craft our strat plan for the next coming 5 years, which obviously will be informed by the NCOP strat plan. And to be able to ensure that there are lessons learned in terms of not only the 30-year review plan, but also the 10-year review of the NDP. I suspect our oversight also has to take that into account, which means that even in terms of our indicators, in terms of promoting outcome-based oversight, we are able to focus on key areas, which then calls the need to ensure that in crafting our strat plan, it is infused with this key recommendation, whether it is the issue of aging infrastructure, whether it is the issue of the support to municipalities, because even our sister committees exercise oversight over municipalities, over water and sanitation, over human settlement.
As you conclude, please.
So it becomes important that at a much more broader strategic level, we utilize your opportunity to also improve our readiness and preparation as we move into the 7th administration. So that's the question that I wanted to check as to whether will you be able to assist us also, accept the invite. I suspect the chair will be able to do that, just to ensure that we sharpen our oversight for the next coming 5 years. That is the only question that I thought I need to raise. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Moemang, thank you very much for that. I still see hands up, Honourable Skeekogel, Honourable Kahunda, and Honourable Moemang. I think those are legacy hands. Thank you. DG, just from my side, if I may, the department has recommended the reform of the Road Accident Fund, which is a public entity reporting to the Minister of Transport. My question would be, what are the board parameters for the reform of the Road Accident Fund that will be recommended by the department? And then there's also the potential rationalization of government departments, entities and programs over the next 3 years, which was raised by the President during the State of the Nation address. Treasury has estimated at that time that the country could achieve a potential saving of about 27 billion rand in the medium term if overlapping mandates and ineffective programs are addressed and entities were consolidated where it's appropriate. So the question would be, what role will the department and the Minister and the Presidency play in respect of this rationalization process? That's all from me, and I hand over to you for the answers to the questions. Thank you very much, DG.
Honorable Chairperson, members, thanks for the question. Chair, let me start by indicating that we are at your disposal because the work that you do depends on the assistance that we can also provide as a DPME. And if the committee calls on us to come and provide a detailed presentation or at the strategic planning session, we'll definitely prioritize that. And also, if other departments are presenting on different matters and you want to hear from us our views on such matters, then we'll be at your disposal and come to also give you our side of the story so that you can have a sense of how we see things, and we believe that will empower the committee to take the kind of decisions that it needs to take. Now, on the review of structures, that is an internal process that we've started. We are engaging with the minister, and I will come back to you on the specific timeframes because of the kind of interdependencies that are involved there. But it's something that we need to do based on the current allocations without asking for new money in the main. so that we can optimize the structure of the department and deal with functions that may be overlapping. So that's one thing that we'll then have to share. And then on infrastructure, there are various interventions from national government that deal with infrastructure. And our own interest in this area is with regard to infrastructure around basic services, wherein local government need to be supported to be able to expedite the construction of infrastructure. Now, there are two initiatives that we have been focusing on. One is the institution called Infrastructure South Africa that has been established within a public works to primarily coordinate the rollout of infrastructure and to provide support to local government. Because previously we had instances where local government will not get money because municipalities did not have capacity to prepare submissions to requests for funding. So that is being attended to so that we support local government. Then on the question raised on the 29 positions that we lost to COVID, that is that we have lost those positions. They were funded but unfilled at the time when National Treasury took the money. And currently, we are affected by the prevailing situation, which says that if there are vacancies, let's say a person resigns, you have to go back, you have to write to DPSA to seek permission to advertise the position. So that lengthens the process within which we are filling positions. And this does not only apply to us, but also to other government departments. On the tracking of APPs, this is what we do on an annual basis. So in the national government, we look at the APPs or the draft APPs of all departments. And then in the provinces, we do 6 provinces, all departments. So that will be 11 by 6, multiplied by 6. So that will be the number of departments that we assess in the provinces. There are provinces that are doing their own assessment, such as the Western Cape, KZN, and Gauteng, but they use our own framework. Now, here's the big issue for the committee. When we assess these APPs, we make comments, we send comments to the departments. But then after that, when the departments finalize the APPs, they don't come back to us to confirm how they would have dealt with our inputs. Because from the departments, they go to the ministers, and from the ministers, they come here in Parliament. So what we then do, we compile a report of everything, all our inputs, so that when Parliament deals with the APPs of the departments, it can call on us to ask us questions on our assessment of a particular APP. So this is happening at the National Assembly level, but Chair, I would suggest that it can also happen at this level wherein you invite DPME to give you a sense of how it would have assessed certain APPs of departments. As we've indicated in a presentation, we do our own frontline monitoring. We have a dedicated team, an infrastructure DPME, 4 colleagues to go to specific sites to verify information. The departments do give us reports on a quarterly basis, but we rely on our own frontline monitoring to assess what is happening on the ground. That's why I can say that the state of the BRT, the bus rapid transport system in Rustenburg, is not up to scratch. It's not up to what we expect. And that's based on the monitoring that we did on the ground with the mayor attending. On the issue of Giama, the public works, we have done an evaluation that has been shared with all the DGs. The Public Service Commission also did its own evaluation and came to the same conclusion. We have shared this with the department and asked the department to come with a response plan. That has been an ongoing process given the changes that have taken place at the DG and ministerial levels. But we will also request that at some point, Public Works comes with us to deal with that matter. If it's pursued by the committee, it always works better when we are present and they are present, so we'll be willing to do that. On the rail infrastructure, two things are happening in that space. The president has signed the law, the bill into law that establishes a new transport regulation. It has not been constituted, but we are looking forward to that. Now, there is also a paper, a policy decision on allowing the private sector to access the rail infrastructure. That is work in progress, but what we can safely say is that the policy is very clear in such a way that there will be no discrimination of some parties over another, at least other than the availability of infrastructure at a given time. Our understanding is that that will not necessarily constitute discrimination when you have got 5 people requesting to transport something at the same time. So you'll have to juggle that ball, but we'll also pay attention to that question to ensure that there is no discrimination. Then quickly on the 30-year review and the 10-year review, which was done by the National Planning Commission, we will then submit all these documents to you, Chair, to the committee in the course of this week. By the end of this week, our colleagues who deal with this, the dissemination of information and documents are online. So we'll make sure that that information is sent to you. Then on the issues raised by Honorable Kaunda, on the DDM challenge, Chair, we share the concern about the challenge in the DDM in that largely the economic cluster departments have not been participating in the DDM. And one of the reasons for that situation is that they are mainly very small departments based in Pretoria. And what we are trying to do now is to ensure that we come up with a specific dispensation that will cater for them. So if you compare, for example, Department of Social Development and Department of Science and Innovation, you'll find that the Department of Social Development is everywhere in the country. So it can participate easily in the 52 district spaces, but the Department of Science and Innovation is only based in Pretoria. So we are dealing with that together with the Department of Cooperative Governance to find a way to ensure that the national departments that are based only at the head office also participate in the district development model. We have issued something called georeferencing guidelines, where we say to departments that when you plan your projects, please also reference where the interventions are located, because that will help us, particularly when we come to a committee like this, where you'll want to know where is this infrastructure, where are these projects that we are talking about. So the guidelines are being adhered to, but mainly around infrastructure, but we want everyone to comply with the guidelines that we have issued. On the State Bank matter, we have been interested in this matter. This department was the one that led to facilitated the transition of the payment of social grants from CPS to the post office at the start of that arrangement. And we had hoped that out of that arrangement, we would end with a situation whereby the post office and the post bank move further towards consolidating their status as a part of the state bank. We have been tracking this and believing that the post bank can lay foundation for the establishment of the state bank. But if we are required to provide the necessary details on how we see this, we will definitely do that. Then lastly, on my side, on the road accident fund, we have been looking at some reforms that are necessary. The part of the reforms is with regard to the benefits for foreigners, which is what has been done currently, where you find that the road accident fund has been trying to come up with a dispensation that will ensure that primarily South Africans will benefit, but there will always be legal challenges in there. But the other part is around the sustainability of the road accident fund itself, because if it was not a state entity, perhaps it would have been declared insolvent. So we have been in engagement with the road accident fund, the Department of Transport on this issue. Lastly, on the road accident fund is with regard to their disagreement with the Auditor General, to an extent that for a long time, they have not been audited because they don't agree with the standards that have been set by the Auditor General. And our view is that this should be resolved even at the political level, because then that creates problems if the road accident fund cannot follow the system that all of us are following. In conclusion, on the restructuring of the government departments, that process is ongoing, is led by the DG in the presidency. It's called the National Micro-Organization of Government. So it is currently being undertaken primarily to deal with the changes that have been introduced recently when the president announced departments, but there is an appreciation that a lot more will need to be done to do what the honorable member is raising, yourself, Chair, to ensure that the state institutions are optimized to be fit for purpose. And that will include the repurposing of the clusters. There are 5 clusters, as you may know, at national level, but we need to optimize them so that they can help us to ensure that there is effective coordination. I will ask the 2 colleagues plus DDG Godfrey Mashamba, who is here, to pick up on other issues that I may not have dealt with. Colleagues, Madale, you can start, followed by Joseph Fielder, Rope, and then Godfrey Mashamba in that order.
Okay, thank you, DG. I think you have covered most of the questions that I would have responded to, particularly in relation to the restructuring, organizational review, which we said we will be considering. That will be after the adoption of the MTDP, and then we'll look at our role. And then that's when, after the strategic planning session, we'll then look at how best we can structure ourselves to streamline the resources and try to achieve our outcomes despite all these budget cuts. So the others, I think, that I would have wanted to respond to, you have touched on them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, colleagues. Yes, indeed, the crime statistics mentioned there of 49 serious organized crime project investigations out of a total of 66 successfully closed are over the MTSF period. So it is between 2019, 2020 to 2023, 2024 financial years. In terms of how we are planning to accelerate issues of title deeds, this challenge has been handed over to Vulindlela, and we know how successful Vulindlela has been in trying in unlocking knots that we have been struggling with as a country for the longest of times. In terms of the road accident fund, the DG has responded to it. I just wanted to add that the team also has the National Treasury, so it's National Transport, National Treasury, and ourselves trying to resolve these huge challenges that include the fact that the fund had operated without its own medical tariffs over the years, and this is despite a constitutional judgment in 2010 which had ordered the road accident fund to develop its own medical tariffs. So there are a lot of challenges around the road accident fund, and we are trying very hard to move towards a reform of the road accident fund. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Chair.
and thank you very much. DG and Chair and honorable members, I was going to add on the Giyama issue, but I think DG has adequately covered it. Just to add one rider that in addition to our evaluation, there was a work done by the Public Service Commission and also the Auditor General. We've used the three sources or studies or assessments to host a roundtable conference of stakeholders, which generated a whole range of views and proposals as to what to do in that environment. So that's why we strongly feel that when we brief SDPME, the select committee, the department should also be able to give an update of how far they have gone in implementing the recommendations arising from that process. Also on the issue of, just to expand on the DG's articulation, whether we rely on reports, we rely on reports, yes, submitted by departments, but there's a variety of other tools that we use to generate evidence. It's physical visits, it's also citizen feedback, but also our own research. We triangulate all these things to generate our own views about progress. Thank you very much.
Chair, that concludes our responses.
DG, thank you very much, Dr. Nkuna. Honorable members, we do have some time left. Are there any follow-up questions for clarification based on the answers you've received? Or any new questions? Just by show of hands. Good. I don't see any further hands. DG, there's one from Honorable Moimang. Please continue, Honorable Moimang.
Thank you, Chair. Just two questions. The first one relates to is there any bill that the department will be sending to Parliament, so that at least in our planning we should also accommodate that. The second one relates to the state-owned enterprise. I see the presentation is mute on that. I know that the president has gazetted some regulation in terms of those entities that was transferred to presidency following the disestablishment of public enterprise. Maybe if we could just get a sense as to why is the presentation silent on that, because I expect that it will be one of their responsibilities, unless probably it is lying somewhere in the presidency. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Moimang. Honorable members, are there any other questions? Thank you very much. DG, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as indicated, what we want to do, we want to work with the committee and provide the committee with information that is required, even if that information is not about DPME, but about other government departments. So the relevant colleagues, as I've indicated, will get in touch with the secretariat of the committee after this meeting to then agree on what information is required by this committee. And as I've also stated, if we are required to present during the strategic planning, we will also do so. So all of us are at your disposal to make the work of this important committee easier. Now, Chair, on the state-owned enterprises, we merely indicated that we do work on the monitoring of state-owned enterprises. So even before the announcement made by the president, DPME already does work to monitor the state-owned enterprises. Now, according to the proclamation that was issued by the president, the DPE will cease to exist on the 31st of March. So meaning that the department still exists under our minister. So DPME and DPE are currently sharing the minister until DPE is disestablished, which, as I've indicated, will happen at the end of the financial year. And then will tend to be guided on what will happen to people who are currently at DPE, as I've indicated that the DG in the presidency leads a process called the National Micro-Organization of the State, or government rather. And what that will do will also deal with the placement of the individuals who currently constitute DPE. So whatever happens at the end, DPME will continue with its work to monitor the performance of state-owned companies, irrespective of where they will be located. The current reports can be shared also with the committee, given the work that we do. So, Chair, with your permission, I'll add this report on state-owned companies to be forwarded also to yourself so that you can see what we have been doing on the monitoring of state-owned companies, irrespective of where they are located. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, and we look forward to the future engagement in this regard, Dr. Nkuna. I just would like to then thank you, Dr. Nkuna, and Ms. Mhlope, if I said that correctly, and Mr. Madale and Mr. Mashamba. Thank you very much for taking the time to inform our committee on your department, and we look forward to our future engagements with you, and we take note of the undertakings that you have made today. We appreciate that. You are welcome to now leave the platform. I'm going to just continue with my committee to approve the minutes of our previous meeting, which I'm sure you are not too interested in, and I'm sure you have other work to attend to. So we will now excuse the Department of Monitoring, Planning and Evaluation members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, members.
Honourable members, thank you very much. On the screen, we have the draft minutes of the committee meeting that we had. Sorry, just scroll down. Scroll up again, please. H, you're going too fast. Yeah, we had this meeting on the 4th of September, and let us just quickly scroll through the minutes, check the attendance to make sure that's in order on page 1. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. That was the presentation of the Department of Public Works, the introductory session. And then under 3.2, the committee deliberations, a summary thereof. Thank you. And then we adopted the minutes of the previous meeting. That meeting was adjourned at 12:30. Honourable members, these minutes were circulated to you as well on electronic format. Can I please have a proposer for the minutes? Thank you very much, Honorable Kaunda, and seconded by Honorable Skierkogel. Much appreciated. Honorable members, thank you for your indulgence. I know we said from the beginning we'd like to have meetings in person. Unfortunately, we've had 17 by-elections all across the country today, and a lot of our members are involved. And so we've agreed that we will have exception this time and have an online meeting. Thank you very much to the committee staff for arranging everything, for our content advisor, for our secretaries. Much appreciated. And with that, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Order,
Thanks,
Chair.
Chair.
You didn't apologize that you started the meeting early. Thank you.
Honorable Kaunda, thank you very much.
Right.
Enjoy
Thank you.
the extra hour of your life.